on this computer. Okay, hi guys. Welcome to the Innovative Mom I Am Conversations. And we're going to be talking to Tammy today. She is a motivational speaker as well as a mental health therapist. And I asked her to come on and she graciously accepted. And I'm really glad to have her here. One of the things that I think is being brought to the forefront now and is, especially during COVID, with everybody staying at home, parents are able to see children and their responses and how they deal with life. And they're able to calm down a little bit enough without the rush of the day-to-day busyness to see themselves as well. And because life shifted so quickly, a lot of people are having a difficult time. And I just wanted to get Tammy on and, have her talk a little bit about mental health care, self-care for moms, counseling versus therapy, if there's even a difference, and stress management, as well as getting help for our kids, because I think that's crucial in how we raise the next generation. So, Tammy, please give us a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi, Elena. First of all, I just wanted to thank you so much for having me on. I'm absolutely honored anytime anybody wants to invite me on to talk about mental health wellness, because mental health wellness is the basis of everything we do in life. And I think that it should be considered one of the best forms of self-care that we can gift to ourselves. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I really don't. But I have always been interested in psychology and behaviors of other people. I have always been interested in wondering why people think the way they think. Why do they act the way they act? Why do they do the things they do? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a positive or a negative, it's not just like, why are they, doing bad things, but why are they doing good things? I want to understand how the mind works and what prompts people. And so ever since I was in the 7th grade, I knew I wanted to be in the mental health field in some way or another. And I have finally gotten to that point, and I am just so excited to be here because I feel like I am walking in my purpose. I feel like I have a gift for listening to people and understanding them. I have a way of being able to read the silence, hear the silence and read body language. And so to me, I feel like that's important because people really need to be heard. People want to be validated and they want to know that they matter. And so a lot of times we don't validate ourselves, and we need to be taught how to do that. And that's essentially what I do as a mental health therapist. And I want to explain briefly what mental health therapy or mental health wellness actually is for those of you who might feel like they know, but they're not quite sure, or who have absolutely no clue, because let's face it, a lot of people don't really understand it, or else they'd probably all be rushing to find a mental health therapist to support them on their journey in life. And so the fact is, a mental health illness is a disorder of the brain, essentially, and it's your body's most important organ. And it's, actually 1 in every 4 adults will experience a mental illness in any given year, such as PTSD, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, all of those things. So 1 in 4 adults will most likely experience that. And just as with most diseases, it's not their fault that they experience any of that stuff. They did not bring it on themselves. Wow. And the good thing though is that mental health illness is treatable, and it's treatable with medication. It's also treatable with psychotherapies, and it actually allows people to live a full life full of opportunities if they allow themselves to embrace it and to seek the help when they are actually needing the help.
Okay. And I think that's pivotal because I think for so long we've had this stigma about mental
Mhm.
health. Suck it up, get over it. It's not, it's not everybody else, it's you. Usually it's like it's not me, it's you. But no, you really think it's you all the time, and you don't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
And you don't quite know how to navigate it. And when it does come, you feel ashamed. And
Right.
that, right, you end up feeling ashamed for something that you really cannot help. And that's
Exactly.
and that there shouldn't be the shame attached to it, because you really do need help. You can't do it alone.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. And it's like I would like for a lot of people to embrace the truth of what they're feeling and feel those feelings and seek someone to help support them along the journey of understanding those feelings so they can get through them without creating more damage
Yeah,
elsewhere in their lives. Because if you think about it, the people that you've known who have mental health illnesses in the past, they create a path of damage to those closest to them, to those around them, and to themselves. It severs relationships. There's tension.
right.
There's mistrust. There's all kinds of things that end up being the fallout from them simply having a mental health illness that has gone unaddressed for quite some time. So,
Right.
embracing the fact that there's that possibility and seeking help for it before there's a crisis or before there's a breakdown is so huge. And I'd really, really, really love to invite people to normalize the conversations around mental health. And that's why I was really excited that you invited me on to talk about this, because I don't think it's discussed enough.
I don't either. One of the things that prompted me is because I had a stroke back in 2016, and I thought I was okay. I didn't have insurance at the time, so I didn't really do the mental follow up like I should have. So I thought I was okay. I thought everything was going great, and I wasn't. And it took me almost 3.5 years to figure out that I was in like this weird depression. And I say weird because I was still semi functional, but I wasn't doing anything. I showed up
Mhm.
on the days I felt well, and
Mhm.
I presented on the days I felt well, but that was maybe 5 or 6 days out of a month. The other days, I literally sat on this sofa and just watched international dramas, because that's
Mhm.
what stopped the anxiety. There was so many things going on. One, being afraid to die after
Mhm.
experiencing a stroke. Two, not being at full capacity, even though I didn't have major physical changes, I did feel some changes. So that was a fear for me. And also not being able to take care of my family like I used to. Eh,
Right.
my brain wouldn't kick in. It wasn't engaging in filling out applications. I would get to maybe the second or third line and just stop, and was like, this is all I can do today. Put it to the side. So I didn't have a job. I
Mhm.
honestly couldn't tell you how I got, outside of knowing that God takes care of his people. Outside of that, I could not tell you how I got through 3.5 years with no working, like no job at all.
Mhm.
No
Mhm.
job. I could not fill out an application. And this is coming from me working 3 jobs, 7 days a week, school full time, and taking care of my family to get me to that point. So
Mhm.
it was embarrassment to say something was wrong and I can't take care of my kids. And
Mhm.
but they kept coming to me saying, something's wrong, mommy, something's wrong. And I'm super mom. So nothing's wrong. It literally came all the way to the point where I lost my house, lost the car,
Mhm.
and my daughters who live away from home. came in and said, okay, we're going to get you a place to stay in a car. You've got to go get some help. We need for you to get help because our brothers, my two younger sons, are still in the house and we need for you to be okay. So
Mm-hmm.
they looked around, got me a therapist, went to therapy. And honestly, when I went to my therapist, she was like, I probably would have 99% put you on medication just to get you through that period.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that's a stigma too with medication, with people feeling like if I'm on this medication, then I'm not going to be myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, Elena, you went through so much, and I feel like that even along with the feeling that you mentioned that it was embarrassing, so you didn't
Uh-huh.
reach out for help. I feel like because of some of your history that you told me about, you're
Yeah.
so used to being the strong one, to
Yes.
be like the person everybody needed and depended on, that in your mind, you were thinking, you were probably in denial, there's nothing wrong with me. I mean, I'm just like, I'm tired today, or it's
Exactly.
just a down day, and it was, a few days had gone by, a few weeks had gone by, a few months had gone by, not really putting together that, okay, how come I can't make it past that third line? How come I can't pick up the phone and make that phone call? Because
Right.
you were shutting it out, and you were putting a wall up because how can you be the one who's needing help when you've been the one everybody's always come to? And I commend your daughters for coming in town, scooping you up, and
Oh,
seeing what you needed and getting you the help that you needed, because that was crucial. That
yes.
was really crucial. And I commend you for listening to them, because you could have fought back, and you might have fought back a little bit, like,
I
no,
did.
no, no. But, you were like, okay, all right, I'll go, but
Yes.
that's just incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. It was such a tough period in my life because I've always been able to, like you said, be the strong one and take care of things.
Mhm.
And then to come down to the fact where I felt completely alone, not because I didn't have people around me. It's because I chose to do this by myself and try to figure out a way to handle it by myself.
Mhm.
And not wise. If anybody's listening, you're not alone.
Right.
Please reach out for help. There are centers actually, right, Tammy, that offer sliding scales as
Mhm.
well. So if you need help, by all means, reach out and
Definitely.
get
Yeah,
help.
there's even some private practice offices that offer sliding rate scales. It doesn't have to be in a full,
And
a big
okay,
agency or center. Like, I'm an individual in a private office,
okay.
and I offer sliding rate scales.
Oh, okay.
So
Great, great.
yeah,
That's good to
so
know.
yeah, it is, especially when, like, I don't take insurance. So
Right.
and more, a lot of therapists are not accepting insurances, unfortunately.
Why is
But
that?
why is that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a couple of reasons, right? There's probably
Okay.
several reasons, but the top two reasons. One, it the government has not created a healthcare program that makes it easy for health for mental health wellness to be included with
Wow.
that. If you think about it, like, you have your internal medicine, your OBGYN, your, you
Mhm.
know, all of those other main core doctors on there, they have a copay, right? Because
Right.
they're primary doctors. Well, when it comes to mental health therapy, how often do you see that you have, I mean, there is a copay, but it's not with every insurance company. It's
Right.
usually like, oh, you pay, 80%, we'll pay 20%. So that
Right.
80% can still be like three times your copay for a regular doctor's visit. So they don't make it affordable still with the healthcare package. And on top of that, there's so many forms and so much red tape that a therapist has to go through in order
Right.
to just even submit to the claims to the insurance companies, and then
Right.
the insurance companies still want to pay a fraction, like literally
Oh no.
I really wish they would offer free health, free mental health wellness to everybody,
I
and
think
then
so
they
too.
pay a fair rate to the therapist, not
Right.
just a fraction, but a fair rate. It doesn't have to be your full pay, but a fair rate.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, but that's why a lot of therapists are no longer taking
Insurance.
insurance. Yes, but with that being said, because a lot of them are not taking insurance at all, they do offer sliding rate scales just so it can be somewhat affordable for those who are having extenuating circumstances
Okay.
and that they qualify for. So that we hold open a certain amount of slots available for that sliding rate. So in other words, it's not like we can't have it where 90% of our clientele is on that sliding rate, but we could have it where maybe 30% or 40% is, a sliding rate, but you have to, have an extenuating circumstance.
Okay.
And if you're just, and don't be afraid to ask for it. Sometimes when I have
Sure.
clients call me up, yeah, when I have clients, new clients call me up to inquire about my services, and we're doing the free consultation, I
Hmm.
can tell that they immediately are like, oh, yes, I want to book you. I want to, I want to hire you to be my therapist. And I am just like honored. Then we talk about money. They say,
Hmm.
can you take insurance? No, I'm not on the insurance panels, but this is my rate. And, and then we start talking about whether or not I have a sliding rate scale.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times they don't even ask about the sliding rate scale because, they're ashamed to, or they feel like they may not qualify, but it's not expected of us to tell them in that conversation, I have a sliding rate scale, because then, everybody's going to try to get on that scale. And if you don't have
Right.
those slots available, they feel some kind of way. So it has to be that the person looking for therapy is, comfortable, or finds themselves to be comfortable asking the therapist, do you have a sliding rate scale? And a lot of times when I can tell my clients hesitant, and now I'll tell them, you know what? This is almost like your first session with me right now. I want to empower you to say what you need to say, ask what you need to ask, and don't
Right.
worry about any consequences. You don't know. If you don't ask for something, you won't get it. So,
That's true.
this is your moment. And I
That's
and I
true.
and that's our first step. It's like, I want to empower you to speak up. And when they do, they're like, oh, okay, sure. I have a new client, and they are able to afford the rate.
That's wonderful. I'm glad we touched on that because like I said, I didn't have insurance, and I felt like because I didn't have insurance, I couldn't go. So you have people who have insurance who feel like they can't go because they have insurance. So it's
Yes.
nice to know that there are sliding scales out there and you can still get the help that you need. I wanted to touch a little bit on the meds because I have had my daughter had some issues at one point and she went to a therapist, and this is what normalized therapy for me. Seeing that
Okay.
my daughters, they were like, no, I'm going to therapy. Like, you don't have to ask me twice. I know something's wrong. I need help. And my concern at one point was they wanted to put her on some type of med. And I was like, no, that's just going to make you,
Zombie like.
yeah, like a zombie. Like you're going to walk around and you're not going to be yourself. And that's just
Gonna
going to
change
do
your
this and do that.
personality.
Right. But we had an incredible PCP who came in
Yes.
and said, look, mom, she needs these meds to stabilize herself so that she can figure out what she needs to do next. So even if it's for a short period of time or for a long period of time, she needs this in order to bring her back to a sense of normalcy for herself. And I watched her come
Hmm.
back to being herself and then taking a holistic approach with the meds. So
Yes.
it meds aren't this huge taboo, and I know they don't work the same for everybody. But can you give me a little bit more information about like the meds and what they're used for?
Okay, so my information will be, albeit brief, because as a mental health therapist, um, every therapist is not able to prescribe medications. Only
Right, right.
psychiatrists. And
Exactly.
so, yes, only psychiatrists are able to subscribe those medications for mental health issues. But I will agree with you that the medications affect different people different
Mhm.
ways. And if you go for a period of time and nothing that you are doing, whether it's for your child or for you, nothing that is being done seems to stabilize the person, and you keep seeing patterns of, the way it ebbs and flows, like they have good days, they have bad days,
Mhm.
good days, bad days, and it's like it can never seem consistent for an extended period of time. Then you definitely want to visit the idea of getting some medications. And there's a lot of antidepressant medications that work well for anxiety. You can get anything from Zoloft to Prozac to Seroquel. There are so many different medications that are used to
Mhm.
help someone manage their anxiety and their depression, and there's different levels to it. I would suggest anybody that's getting on them, of course the psychiatrist will tell them exactly what they feel, but to,
Right.
if you've been hesitant about getting on them, then request the lowest dosage possible
Mhm.
to see how that actually works with your body, and to
Okay.
see if it's going to change your personality, your energy levels. It might make you sleep more, might make you not be able to sleep. And then once you start with the lower dosage and you do that for 1 or 2 months, then if you feel like you're still having a lot of edginess with your anxiety or your depression, then maybe go up the milligrams a little bit and then see how that works for you. I would not suggest somebody jumps in really deep, because
Mhm.
then if there's like a significant change in personality and energy levels, then that's when people become scared of the medications, because they're just like the stuff you see in the movies. You know what I mean?
Yes,
In the movies, they
exactly.
make people listless and just kind of stare off into the space. And it's like, well, we don't want to be that way. We don't want to be unfeeling, right?
Right.
That's the movie, though. So I would just suggest easing into it until you and your doctor figure out what's the best level for you. And
Right.
then, stay right there or ease back a little bit.
Okay. Okay. I want to touch on children and therapy because a lot of times, and I think this is one of the most opportune time for parents to observe their kids because, like I said, we're so busy, we're working, we're going back and forth to extracurricular activities. Our kids are in school, they work, they go back and forth. And until now, I think we've just been so busy, we haven't had time to observe or notice. But because we're um, social distancing and, you know, sheltering at home, I think a lot of things are coming out a lot more to both parents and children. And I want to encourage the parents out there that it's okay if you notice your kids going through things. It's okay to reach out and get therapy. It's okay to have a third party talk to your kids. And you can't be afraid of what they'll say because they are human. I always say kids are human before they are placed with that title of child. They're
Mm-hmm.
human. They have real emotions, real feelings, and they don't always have the avenues that we have as adults to talk about what they are really and truly feeling or what they're going through. I always
Mm-hmm.
used to tell my ex now, I was like, they're not on the playground saying, girl, you know what happened to me today? My parents are whack. They're crazy. They're always on me and it's really, really bothering me. But as adults, I can call my girlfriend and say, hey, you know what? My kids are really whack today. I can call them, but kids, they don't have
They don't have that language,
they don't have that language or
not the
that
mature part of it.
exactly. And they need to have a safe place to do that. And if
Yeah.
it can't be with you, it needs to be with someone.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be with someone else. And I just wanted to hear your take on parents and parents getting help for their kids.
Yes. So So in regards to children on the playground not feeling like they can say, hey, my parents are like whack, they're driving me crazy. When you say playground, I think of younger kids. No, they don't have that language to do that.
Mhm.
And I think it's really the responsibility of the parent to observe their children's behavior, to start noticing if they're not being if they're not being socially engaging with other kids,
Mhm.
or if they are being a little too aggressive with other kids, to try to take a step back and ask, figure out like, where is that coming from? Like, is
Right.
there, and then have a talk with the kid to ask, is there something that's been bothering you, or how are you feeling today? Let's talk about feelings. And you can even make it a game, like, choose the picture that you feel like, today. And then,
Right.
every day, and then put it on the wall and say, you know what, it's okay if they choose a sad face or an angry face. You know what, it's okay to feel that. Do you understand why you feel that? Like, what happened to make you feel that way? Create conversation around it so the
Right.
kid gets in a space to understand that they can talk to their parents about anything.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the teenagers and
Yes.
older, yes, the ones that talk back to you, the ones that have attitude and that think
Right.
they know everything, those kids, they may not necessarily say, my parents are whack. These days, they are having stronger words, and they
Yes.
are using them with their friends. And sometimes it's like it's not something major that the parent did, but for
Right.
them it feels huge, so they make it bigger than it is,
Mhm.
and then they talk negative about the parents. And but what happens there is the child who's not having any of those issues with their parents starts to look for them, because they're like, well, they're having issues, I kind of want to have issues too, so I have something to exchange with them, to talk about with them. So then you run into the risk of your kid or somebody else's kid being unfairly influenced in a negative way about the parent situation. So you might start to see at home, you're having issues with your children, with their attitude, with their comments, or with their aloofness, or not following instructions, and you're wondering, when did this happen? Like, what's going on? It's usually because they're being influenced also by some other kids who might be having some issues at home, or because they are kind of growing into themselves, trying to
Right.
figure out, who am I, where do I fit in? When are my needs going to be met? Like, what are my needs? Because sometimes they don't even really know what their needs are. So
Exactly.
there's a lot of stuff going on in their heads. And so
Right.
as a parent with teenagers, we have to still remember to spend some quality time, some one-on-one time with them. If you have more than one kid,
Mm.
try to encourage conversation. And when they try to push back at you or snap at you, of course, you kind of cut it, but hold on now, where's that coming from? Like,
Right.
that's not allowable. Are you angry about something, or did I interrupt you doing something that I should have waited? And then explain to them a better way to handle that would have been to say, just one moment, mom, or excuse me, or can you give me 10 minutes and then I'll be there, instead of mom or dad calling you for 10 minutes. Hey, I need you to come put these dishes away. Hey, I need
Right.
you to come do this. And then you're like the kids playing a game or on their phone or whatever. And then they get angry because they feel like you've been bugging them. You have to teach the kids how to have better communication in order to get what they want. And also to practice setting boundaries within the family dynamics will be very important as well.
That is so true. I gave my kids a voice early on, and because they didn't know how to communicate at well, because they were kids, I gave them a voice. I said, "Okay, you can say how you want to say it the first time, and then we'll teach how to say it. So going forward, you'll know."
I
So
love it.
that was completely just off the grid. And I got this actually from my sister-in-law. She always asked my nieces and nephews how did they feel about things. She was very calm, very quiet, and she would always ask, like, you know, how did that make you feel? And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, like children ought to be seen and not heard, but
That's
but
what we
her,
were told.
right, or so we were told growing up. But I
Right.
watched her with my niece and nephews, and they had this incredible platform of safety in
Yeah.
talking to her. So I
Yes.
wanted to mimic that. So that's why, that was one of the main reasons why I opened up. I need for you all to talk to me. I want it to be, and it's so funny because they, at some point they were like, you don't listen. It's like, yeah, do listen, but what you're saying didn't make sense. So, but,
Or it's how
and
they
then,
were saying it.
huh?
Or it's how they were saying it.
Yes, and it partially was me holding my stance as an adult based off of my old way of thinking. What they
Yes.
said made perfectly good sense. Like a
Yeah.
month later, when I was laying in the bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, it was like, you know what? They were right. That did make sense. And I would go and wake them up at 2 o'clock and say, you remember last month when you were saying this? Well, mommy understands it now.
A whole month
Like,
later.
it's 3 o'clock in the morning, woman. Okay, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. But when it hit me, I would always go back to them and say, I understand. I really understand. I didn't understand at the time, but I do now. And
Yes.
then
Yes.
that created dialogue, and it created a dialogue for us to be able to talk. But they needed that safe place. And when
They
they
need
got
that
older,
validation too. Yes.
right, when they got older and out on their own, I'm so glad they chose to go to therapists.
Yes.
I really am. I am extremely, extremely proud of them for saying, I know I have issues. Something's not right. Let me go get help. And them going helped me because they, I saw their change and I saw their growth and I saw their peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't do this. I know I'm supposed to be superwoman and I'm supposed to hold the whole world on my back, but I can't. I've got to sit down and take care of myself. And I can't be who I need to be for myself or them or anyone else if I don't take care of my mental, my physical health and my mental
Exactly. And it's okay to be superwoman, but you
health.
have to remind yourself it's okay to take that cape off. You don't
Yes,
have to wear that cape all day, every day. You can
right.
have the cape, but you don't have to wear it all day, every day.
That's true. That's true. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, so I wanted to touch on counseling versus therapy. Is there a difference?
Yes, there is. So, okay, so the difference is that with a counselor, they focus more on the problem and the immediate solution. And when you go to therapy, they focus more on like what caused the problem, like where did it grow from, and so how can you go back to revisit that to like fix it from that perspective. And it's so counseling is more of a short-term therapy, where
Okay.
a form of therapy, where psychotherapy is more long-term.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. Good. 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 So I know we've been talking for a while, and I could probably talk to you forever. And I definitely want you to come back on and talk some more later on. Self care for moms. I know you're a mom, so I wanted to talk to you about self care for moms. Um, I know it's important to have our physical health, but stress management, taking time out for ourselves, and things like that. What's your opinion, or what do you have to say on those issues?
Wow. Yes, those things are so important in the life of a mom with a busy schedule, who's running a business, who's feeling like she's the strong one for not just her immediate family, but for her friends, for her coworkers, for her extended family. And it took me a long time. It took me many years, took me decades, to be honest, to understand the benefits of making sure that I had multiple forms of self care at my fingertips at
Yeah.
all times. It's almost like, you're wearing this cape as Superwoman, right? But then you need to have that doctor's bag that you can like open up and say, what am I going to pull out today? What do I need today? Okay. And so,
Perfect.
yes. So here are some of my suggestions to carry around in that doctor's bag. And if you don't want to call it a doctor's bag, it can be your luggage. It can be,
Your
it can,
attaché case.
it could be your nightstand. It could be,
Right.
whatever you want to carry the stuff in. But my suggestions are,
I'm going to
and I
type this
think
in the chat as well. I'll type
awesome.
this in the chat so I can put it up. Okay.
Okay, so let me do it. If you're going to type it in the chat, I'm going to do it bullet point style.
Okay.
So it's easy to do.
Wonderful.
So me time. Me time is huge. Along with me time, there are intentional breaks. Intentional breaks, yep, not just because, I happen to have some time. It's like, no, put that on your schedule. Intentional breaks. Traveling solo, not necessarily with girlfriends, or if you do go with girlfriends, get your own room. Get your own room and make sure that it's clear you don't have to do everything together all day long, every day of the vacation.
Right.
I'll do me. Occasionally we'll meet for breakfast or dinner or a drink or whatever, but traveling solo. Putting themselves first occasionally. Now, I didn't say all the time because that's not our motherly nature, and that would go against what we really, generally have in our spirits. But making sure that you put yourself first occasionally is very important, because so many times us moms have put ourselves last if we even put ourselves on the list. You got to put yourself on the list. Massages go a long way in so many ways. Spiritual and health and wellness retreats are always amazing. So when you run across
wellness,
spiritual and health and wellness retreats, it could be a spiritual retreat or health and wellness retreat.
What was the one that you said right before then? I'm sorry. Massages. Yes. I definitely agree with that.
Yes.
I go a lot, and I'm on level 10 a lot. And I have a friend, her name is Tammy as well. She gifted me several massages, and I'm like, you know what? I really need to include this in my self-care.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the last thing, and of course, this is like one of my top ones too, is get yourself a good therapist.
I think so too.
So all of those are my favorite go-tos in my doctor's bag. And I think they're very important, specifically for women, for mothers. And, they're very important for anybody, but specifically for mothers. I like to be able to remind myself, hey, choose one of those. Because a lot of times when we're under a lot of stress, we're really super busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. When somebody, realizes, or you realize yourself that, you're going so hard, you need to slow down. It's like, slow down and do what? Like, I really don't want to just sit there and watch TV, and because that makes me feel like, I'm really being a slouch,
Right.
And so slow down and do what? Because I don't want to feel worse afterwards. It's like a guilty pleasure. I want to feel better. And so those are the things that I can remind myself that I can do in order to feel better. And in the beginning, you might feel some sense of guilt that like, I'm giving myself this. It costs how much? It takes out how much time? It's like, no. You deserve it. You've earned it. Give it to yourself and own it.
I have to clap for that one.
Push that applause button. I'm just kidding.
I know. Like a stadium applause. I'm a single parent, right? I've been a single parent of 5 kids for the past 11 years. So my time was intense. I have 5 people I'm listening to who have goals and dreams and things that I have to support and be a part of, in myself as well. And to divide that time, because I wanted to be there and make sure that I was being my best self to them. And the whole time they were saying, Mommy, take care of yourself. I literally learned self-care from them. I would come home from working, I don't know, 20 hours, and the house would be clean and a cafe would be set up and music would be playing. And, they will have, done all of these things for me to slow down. And I'm like, no, mommy, I got to do this. Ah. And they were like, no, just calm down. Just sit down for a minute. I'm like, no, you don't understand all of the things I have to do as a single mom. But in fact, it helped me tremendously. I was working two jobs that were about 30 minutes apart, and I lived an hour away from both jobs. So I would, it was two different hospitals, and I would get off, grab a hotel, go to sleep, then go home.
Oh, wow.
That was the only way. And up until that point, I would literally pull over in a Quick Trip parking lot and sleep because I just couldn't make it home. But then I found that I could get a hotel for little of nothing, especially on a Saturday, because those were my 12-hour shifts. And I would just go in and just take a nap. I was like, can I have a late checkout, please? Like my checkout, I don't get off until 11. I need to sleep until 3 so I can go home and get back by 11. And they would let me have a late checkout. I would sleep, then I would get up, leave the room, go home, be awake, talking to the kids, and then try to go from maybe 9 to 10 and get a nap so I can work a 12-hour shift to get back to the hotel to sleep 3 hours.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you
Oh no.
feel like in the majority of your life that you felt like you had to have control, you had to be in control of the majority of the stuff going on around you?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I will not shy away from that at all, because I felt, especially being a parent, because I felt like my kids are my responsibility. So that included everything around it.
Yeah, that comes from what you went through when you ended up being a single parent. It may come from some other things that you might have experienced as a child, but that's what molded you to feel like I have to have my hands on things and know exactly what's going on in order for me to semi-relax. Because when you mentioned that your kids were saying, Mommy, you need to slow down, you need to take care of yourself, and they'd have music in the cafe going and the house would be clean, and it kind of still stressed you out, that's because you were like, I didn't do it, or I didn't appoint somebody to do it. And you know what? So that's what led me to ask you that, because a lot of times, because I'm the same way, and a lot of times we strong people are also, we have a tendency to need to have a certain level of control over certain things. It's difficult for us to let that go. If you'd like to be a guest on Tuesdays with Tammy, please contact me at www.tammyvaughn.com.